What's up, everyone? Welcome to the MIDCONVO podcast, season 2, Chicago. We have an awesome guest with us today, Corbett Drummey. He is the co-founder of Popular Pays. So if you're in this area, you'll probably know what that is. And then also the VP of brand collaborations at Lightricks.
Man, I'm super excited about this one because your boy here, if I can go back maybe like 8 years, I was using Popular Pays, driving from Minneapolis to Chicago to figure out how to cash in on some social currency, you know what I'm saying? And we're going to talk a little bit about AI. We're going to talk about Popular Pays, and then also what it looks like to build with others. But first, let's roll that intro music. Man, well, thanks for hopping on the mic. We're stoked that you're here.
I'm honestly really excited.
Heck yeah. You were just in Austin.
I was supposed to be there for South by Southwest. I caught the flu.
Ooh.
I missed it. But I went back the weekend after for Austin's first AI film festival, which was really interesting. Really
That's
interesting.
awesome.
Yeah.
I think for our listeners that are tuning in, we have a whole lot of creative entrepreneurs and freelancers that are active listeners. What do you do? Like if someone meets you maybe at an event where you're speaking on, let's say, AI, what are you doing right now at Lightricks?
I get that question from people at work all the time. They give me the office space. What would you say you do here?
Totally.
So right now, okay, as a bit of a long history, I was the co-founder and CEO of Popular Pays, and we connect brands and content creators. I ran that for 10 years, basically. And then 3 years ago, Lightricks acquired the company. People know of Lightricks because of their really popular photo and video editing apps like Video Leap, Facetune's the biggest one, Photo Leap. So Lightricks acquired PopPays, and the first year and a half I worked on integrating the two companies. And then about a year ago, they were launching a new AI video product called LTX Studio. And they said, hey, look, we want to bring this to brands and agencies and businesses. So do you want to help us go to market in the United States with that? So my job today as VP of brand collaborations is basically evangelizing the LTX Studio AI video product, connecting with brands, kind of sales with brands. I'm helping build the initial team, like hiring the first sales team and go-to-market teammates in the United States. And then I do a lot of just marketing and evangelism work. Like, for example, I was supposed to talk at South by and didn't.
Next year.
Yeah, it's such a fast-moving space, and there's so much changing. I've never worked on a product where normally your team, like the sales team, for example, is like, oh, we need this feature. Can you guys build it? And now it's like the opposite, where it's moving so fast. I'm responsible for demoing it, and I have to teach myself the product every week because something new pops up.
Wow.
It's crazy.
Jeez.
And, there's new papers coming out where our engineering team is using the new research to change the product. And it's like so fast moving that my job, like a third of it, is going to different conferences where people are showcasing the latest technology and just showing off what it can do, which is wild. Yeah.
So it's like partnerships, and you're kind of an educator too now in this space.
Yeah.
Let's bring it back to Popular Pays days, right?
Yeah.
The good old days.
Come on.
Yeah.
I think also too, just like talking a little bit more about Popular Pays, and I love what we have a lot of creators that listen to the podcast. So maybe just a little bit of history, just to touch on how you, in that season of your life, were connecting. I mean, you still are, but like, especially then, bringing that community and connecting creators with brands and businesses, and how that all unfolded for you.
Yeah. We can talk about it. Like, it definitely was a distinct season, and there were different moments within that journey. Like the beginning, it started out as something different than it became. So in the early days, I was working at an ad agency, Leo Burnett, downtown.
Wow.
And I was a lowly assistant account executive, and my teammate Alan Holmes was a graphic designer. And Instagram had just come out.
Wow.
I mean, it was like
New.
Yeah, it was new. And we were trying to get our brands on it, and this current setup was like, hey, let's do these expensive photo shoots to create a few photos for social, for Facebook or whatever. The cost structure didn't work. It was so dumb. Yet you could hire a creator to make content that's actually native to the platform for much cheaper. And so we're trying to push our brands to do that. But it all started, my co-founder Alan was like drunk at a house party, and he's like, let's throw a party that you can't get into unless you have 500 Instagram followers.
Wow.
And I was like, I worked for Miller Coors at the time at Leo Burnett, the Miller Coors brand. And I was like, that's really cool. We should do that and have like really cool stuff you can take photos of, and like card your ID at the door, then they card your Instagram. And we tried to do it. It failed. Like, we weren't allowed to do it. And so we did it outside of Burnett with our own local sponsors. I mean, I can keep going. There's
That's
like
amazing.
a comedy of errors. Like,
what's funny is Alina, who's one of the guests on this season, she remembers when she like connected with you guys around one of those parties.
Yeah. She was like, I feel like she was in the first 10 or 20 users or something. So early that
awesome.
Alan would talk with her and others about their feedback. But it was such a unique product. It's different now, but back then, okay, so at first we didn't have, it was just me, Alan, and Nathan Michael, who was a creator in Chicago, and he knew businesses in the area. So he helped us get in the door at some businesses like Heritage Coffee Shop or whatever, and they'd offer you a free cup of coffee in exchange for a post. We didn't have an engineer, so we couldn't build an app. So we just made a private Instagram page, and then we told the baristas like, hey, if they have enough followers, we'll let them in to see this page. And then if they show you this, just give them a free cup of coffee. It was like so many issues with that. Like, but like it does speak to a lesson, which is,
what year was this?
This
by
was
the way?
2013.
Like what year is this? Okay, so this is like literally over 10 years ago.
Yeah.
When like followers and stuff weren't as mainstream.
Great clarification.
Yeah.
It was early stage. Back then, even having like 500,000 followers.
Brands didn't understand that either. Even on the early years, what it meant to like have someone come in and take photos and post it.
I know. We felt kind of like we were in crazy town because we'd go to these businesses and say like, just give this $3 cup of coffee, back then it was probably $3, to this person, and they'll post it, and they have at least 500 people following them, and you get this piece of content you can use. And they're like, I'll pass. We're like, are you stupid? Like, but there were some cool brands that signed up. A lot of the early Chicago, like your favorite Chicago brands all signed up. We went to other cities, but we did some things right. We did some things wrong, but inadvertently, for example, since we didn't know an engineer at the time, it's important to launch quickly and iterate. So we launched before we even had to spend money on building an app. We were getting people using the thing. Later, we did a hackathon, unrelated, just to meet engineers. So we didn't know anyone, and then hired some people from that. But we, got to market early. People were using it, and the creators loved it, but the businesses wouldn't pay. So over time, like after a year, we were running out of money, running out of investment, and the company basically fell apart. Alan took a job with Facebook. We were so broke, and
he's like, I gotta make some money.
And it came with a good offer. And Nathan was always a freelance designer and photographer, so he had an income stream. And but we parted ways, the three of us, and then myself and this one engineer, Steven, like rebuilt it. We added one thing, and we just basically said brands can say what they need in a brief. So they could say, I need this type of content, but then creators can apply with a price. And then after the first month of releasing that, we made like 20 grand, and then we hadn't made 20 grand in the first year. So like it was just a slog for the first year, but then after just iterating a little bit, it's like it started taking off.
That's awesome.
At its peak, Popular Pays, how many subscribers, like active subscribers, were there?
I mean, it's still growing today. I mean, there's well over 150,000 or something creators using it.
Nice.
Like we're not scraping accounts. It's just like people signed up. And then we've paid out tens of millions to creators. I can say that. Yeah.
That's awesome.
That's awesome.
That's huge. Yeah.
I want you to touch on off the mic. We were talking about how you, Alan, and Nathan all kind of lived together during those scrappy years of entrepreneurship. And I think that's cool because you guys all were like, hey, we're in this. And we're willing to share a kitchen and like the one bath or whatever. What did that look like that season?
We'll get to talk, like it's funny. It's really fun to reminisce about this stuff, and I could talk about it all day. I promise to the viewers we'll get to like modern stuff. But basically, it was wild. I remember, this is relevant because I know there's a lot of people, like entrepreneurs listening to this, and startups are hard, but a very challenging time was just trying to leave to do your thing full time. Like no holds barred, that is just a very challenging period. I remember working at Leo Burnett, 9 to 5, or I'd stay late just working on my day job. We'd go meet up with Nathan, work out of his house at night, and we were just burning the candle at both ends. I was even like, I was at Leo Burnett, they have Kellogg's as a client, so I'd go in and like I'd put cereal in my backpack so I didn't have to spend money on groceries. take beers from the Miller Coors floor.
Dang.
And
that's awesome.
Now, I mean, Leo Burnett's actually hired Popular Pays to work on various clients, including Miller Coors since then, so I can say these things.
That's so cool.
And Kellogg's has been a client.
Dude, that's amazing.
So apologies, but it's okay. But anyways, we would leave, we'd work nights and weekends, and it got to be a point where it's just like, man, we can't keep doing this. Like, we're not making enough progress. It's exciting and invigorating, but we just have to commit. So I was trying to save up money. I saved up like 3 months of rent money, and I think we were living together. So we moved in because we knew we wanted to start this thing, but I think I was still working at Burnett. And then one day, Alan came up to my desk at Burnett and he goes, "Hey man, I'm quitting." And I was like, "Oh shit, we're doing this." He's like, "I told him you're quitting too."
Oh, he did it for you.
Yeah.
Wild.
Yeah.
So, but looking back, honestly, I've reflected on it, and I'm not entirely sure it would have worked without that. Like, I'm not a quitter. Like, I usually have a lot of inertia. I like where I'm at, and I'll never give up on something. But he had just enough impulsiveness to be like, we just got to go for it. And I probably would have saved up enough money, but who knows timing wise, like maybe we had to leave and like just ship the thing and get it out.
Wow.
So I don't know. I think quitting is really important in the sense of like, if you want to, like, it's hard to do both and you want to just like maybe leave a little bit before you're ready, but easier said than done. Like, I didn't do it. Someone left for me.
That's awesome.
Quitting is important. That's kind of
That's good.
a very interesting thing.
It's probably like the single highest leverage activity in the sense of like there's a difference between, and you guys are both running, like, I think a lot of people in the audience, they're running their own businesses. But basically the trade-off is stability. Like, do you have the guardrails or not? And once you remove the guardrails, anything's possible. Mm-hmm. But if you do really well at a job, you can get bonuses and stuff. Or if you're part of a startup, you can get equity and that grows. And that's actually a pretty good deal too. But once you leave to do your own thing, it really opens up the entire world of possibilities. And usually it's less risky than you think. Like, wow. For example, where I'm at now, it's like, it's really nice in the sense that it's very fast moving and does not feel like a big company. It's almost too fast moving. It's crazy.
Wow.
But a lot of times you're at like a big company and or a stable job, but it's not as stable as you think. Like, look at how many layoffs are going on now. It's like nothing safe, whether you're at Google or Facebook or, X, Y, and Z insurance company. And it's a really powerful force. Like, once you have to figure things out, it's like studying before a test. Like, I promise you will.
That's so true. You figure it out. It's like procrastinating. It's like you procrastinate to the end of the deadline, and then the deadline the day before comes, and somehow you figure it out and you submit what you need to submit.
One thing I'd say though is that for me at least, once you're on the hamster wheel, it's really hard to get off in the sense that I think it's really important to spend a lot of time thinking about exactly what you want to do, because you have to assume you're going to spend at least like 5 to 7 years doing that next thing.
I think we live in a world of instant gratification. And I think more people than not are side hustle photographer, videographers, if we're talking about like photographers, videographers, because they're scared to take that leap. Mm-hmm. And I think you pointed something out really cool in your story is you made sure that you had that 3-month emergency fund. And a lot of people will ask like, hey man, I love like working with brands and like shooting photos, but I'm so nervous to give up stability. And I think it's cool that your story is, when you took that leap and when Ellen told your HR team, hey, we're both done. I'm sure you guys were able to see a little bit more growth in that business because guess what? You had to.
Yeah, 100%. Like it really sharpens your focus. I probably would have saved like 6 months had I been left alone. But like I said, maybe I would have never felt comfortable enough. So it does, and I should say finding the right co-founder can be really important. And it really de-risks things. We talked about this a little bit before recording, but like there's a magic to that as well, where often it's from someone you've had some working relationship with. Like I worked with Alan. Oftentimes they're complementing a skill set you need. Like Nathan Michael knew all these businesses, and I'd never sold anything to anyone. I'd never designed anything. So like Alan and Nathan were more technical and value additive in that way. But if you don't, like if you want to do something but you don't have that right co-founder, a really good thing to do is just to reach out people in the space, talk with them, and you'll get the vibes from that person pretty quickly about like if you could collaborate, and then try to work on a project together if possible.
Like a test project.
Yeah, exactly.
What are your thoughts on going into business with your friends? Because it sounds like you guys were friends.
Yeah, we were.
Were you friends before working at the ad agency?
Yeah, but it was an interesting friendship because literally, so we were at a Leo Brandt's intern group. It was 40 of us, and there was like an old Facebook group, you know, and I remember posting something like who wants to live together and like do a bunch of fun stuff, but also work on side projects, something like
Yeah.
and Alan's like, I love side projects. So we lived together with 2 of the people from the group, but we had a desire to also work on something outside of work. So it was kind of like a precondition, or like something we went into the friendship knowing, but we stayed, you know, it was tough. Like when we fell apart, you know, that was tough for our friendship. We didn't talk for months. And for both of us, for me, Alan, Nathan, it was tough for all of us. We're now great friends again. You know, I was just at Alan's place last week when I was visiting
That's cool.
New York, and I stay in touch with Nathan. But yeah, for a while it was tough because basically the early company fell apart and we had to rebuild it. And that was really, feels like a breakup, honestly.
Wow.
Yeah.
At the moment, like, was there ever a moment where you're like, I need to step away for a second just because of how hard this is, or were you always in it?
No, I mean, you're always in it, but I never told this to anyone, but maybe Rachel, my wife, but I definitely remember plenty of times in the early days. It didn't happen after the first few years, but I would be like working at our home and I just get this like overwhelming stress where I just have to like close my laptop and walk around outside. Like,
wow.
and you know, it's like, but then, you know, you have a couple good thoughts and sometimes I used to remember like, I like would feel that. And I remember, so we used to work out of, Jason Peterson at Havas gave us some free office space once. And I remember I'd get this feeling and I'd just go pace around the room next to our office and just write on the whiteboard. And you usually come away with some good things that help with the stress, in the sense that once you feel like you have direction, something you can work on, and you've got the problem in your sights, it's less stressful. I think it was just the overwhelming thing of like a number of things competing for your attention all seemed, you know, it seemed impossible to tackle it all. So yeah, there were times where I just like would pace outside to like cool down.
Wow.
So when you were feeling like that overwhelm, because I feel like that's super relatable. A lot of people probably feel that too, because the overwhelm can happen at many different levels of where you're at in life or in business. How are you able to cut it out or like push through when you have a lot of things juggling? I'm sure you still do, but
yeah,
is there something that you do or some practice that you have either mentally or just like actual with your time that you try to manage it?
Yeah,
make a plan.
That's a great question. I've not thought about it too much, but moving around seems to be clarifying. So whether it's like walking or going for a run or something, that seems to be clarifying. I would say things were the least clear in the beginning. Like I remember this time where it had been 3 months and I was like, I don't know, like, I don't know if we have, I'm trying to raise money, but we don't have traction. And Alan said something like, what if we have traction? We don't know it. And I was like, I'm pretty sure we'd know it. Like we'd feel it, but we literally didn't know if it was working. We were like,
wow.
But then we try to model out, like, are we making enough money to pay our own bills, or could we raise money based on these metrics? And it became clear it wasn't working.
Wow.
And so, but like, it was most stressful when you just couldn't get a line of sight on the problem. But over time, there's many stressful periods. But I found often, like, even taking a call and walking around outside, or just walking around afterwards, or going for a run, I think movement helps, like, calm me around a little bit. Maybe it's completing the stress cycle, perhaps.
Bro, I got to get my workout in every day.
Yeah. Such a practical tip, honestly.
There's this interesting relationship. Popular Pays, you were, building with others. And then Lightricks kind of acquires, if you will. And now you're building with others underneath someone else's authority, if you will.
Yeah.
What is that like as an entrepreneur? Because I know a lot of people that have been in the startup world that get acquired and they end up working for a bigger company. Has it been a good transition? And also, like, what has that been like?
Yeah. So, I mean, first off, I would say overall, Lightricks has been great. With looking at the acquisition, if we hadn't have done it, like, I know it was the right move in the sense that if we hadn't have done it, the path would have been so much harder. Yeah. So, like, one of the things our exec team was thinking about at the time was how ruthlessly competitive the content world is going to be from a technology perspective. And now, as an example, we knew there's a coming tide of AI, and we knew that we didn't have the momentum and traction and technical resources to compete at the highest level. So it was pretty clear, like, if we didn't do it, I probably would have had to, like, trim down the team, and we'd be turning to more like a low growth, like, agency, just operate, but, like, we wouldn't have an edge in the market anymore. We wouldn't be able to keep growing. Like we might have been shrinking versus growing, for example. Totally. So it felt like, startup death in one path. And so we'd either have to raise money or get acquired. We were looking at raising money, and we got an inbound from Lightricks. And it became clear talking with them. First of all, like we gelled really well with them when talking with them initially. It's similar to finding a co-founder. Like you feel each other out. But their technical chops are great, and they were strong. Like a good co-founder, they were strong in ways we weren't. Like we were never good at marketing, and they're just world-class at it.
Wow.
Like they're so good. And so there were all these things, like they actually had a honest to God research team, building, like they built a foundational AI model, and you can't get away with building a new video model unless you're spending like 8 figures, like low 8 figures or something, just in general. So like they had an ability to compete at levels we just didn't. And when we talked about how we'd fit together, okay, they have tens of millions of creators using things like Video Leap and Facetune, and they have these amateur professionals editing stuff with Photo Leap, etc. Can we use Popular Pays as a way to get these creators paid, like get them branded gigs? Cool. You know what I'm talking about with
I love that.
Your own your own business there. So they were looking for a way to monetize their creator base or help their creators monetize. But over time we found a lot more like, I hate to use the word synergy, but I just said it.
That's awesome.
But one small example of like how it still might work together, like Lightricks made this amazing brand safety tool where you can plug in any creator and it'll find like, did they post anything bad in their history, which takes hours of search from a person. But it finds all these funny things. Like my wife got this shirt from Morton Salt Shed, like the concert venue. Yeah. And it has the Morton Salt girl and says, "Don't be a salty." Oh, and the AI caught it and was like, it looks like it's meant to be humorous, but still it's like it's profanity. So we're just like flagging it.
Yeah.
It's so good. But like they're building cool AI tools.
Did you send that to your wife? Like, hey, look at this.
Yeah. She's like, I forgot you posted that.
You got to archive this, honey.
Yeah. But so it's like, there's really cool tools that we can build now in partnership with Lightricks. There's some even some other ones coming out, but over time, for example, you can imagine people getting really good at using LTX Studio, the AI video editor, and maybe we have a creator group over here that you can hire, and you can say like, hey, I made a draft of a project, and you can hire someone who's good at LTX Studio to like finish it out.
The integration makes sense.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
They've been good, but to answer your question, like there's always going to be some meeting in the middle, like with any partner, whether it's partner in your life and business, whatever, there's always compromise. It wasn't anything intolerable. Like we're still, a lot of the team is still there today, even 3 years later. And then, we're still innovating the product and growing. But I moved over, Lightricks. It was interesting because I'm no longer managing a team. Initially I was integrating Popular Pays and managing, I think we had like 35, 40 people when we were acquired. And then probably now it's like 50 something working on Pop Pays.
Wow.
But I'm not, it's crazy. Like that AI product I mentioned, I had no part in its development. And like that alone is really cool because they're building new things without me or, and just seeing it continue to grow apart from me is still really cool.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah.
I think it's super cool to hear your story because it kind of shows that yes, partnering or building with others does require giving up a lot of things at times, but that's the only way sometimes you can build it farther. And I think when you're like a solopreneur or you're even a freelance creative or anyone building a startup, it's like you can only go so far with like your current system.
Yeah.
And I think that's why building with others is so important because you maybe might not have full creative freedom or freedom in general for this part, but someone better than you can fill that role and
it's so
take
true.
it farther.
It's that old thing. Like if you want to, go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go with others. I would say, it's interesting in a parallel moment, like you can use AI tools to magnify your own personal impact on things by like 10x, 100x. And you can do a lot as a solopreneur now. But if you're breaking into a new field or trying to grow, there's no substitute for talking with experts in the field. And, you're not going to make or break your company by staying home and working on a spreadsheet one night or, whatever, but you can make it by meeting the right person.
Wow.
And I used to be the kind of person that I would just stay at home working on some like investor deck or a spreadsheet or whatever. And Alan would go meet someone and he'd be like, "Oh, I found an investor at this random party or whatever." And so like you need both. Like you need to work hard on things and you need the craftsmanship of building a product and you most importantly need to make something people want.
That's so good.
But it's very true that like if you're hearing this and trying to break into an industry, you can learn amazing stuff from ChatGPT, but you will move forward 10 times more if you just talk to an expert in that field.
Wow.
Especially because they can distill down what you need to know in a much simpler way than if you read, all the Wikipedia articles about your thing.
That's so good. I feel like there's similar values there with MIDCONVO.
Yeah.
Ed used to run the podcast by himself. And then, not to toot my horn, but your boy joins. And now we're going further.
Now we're getting views.
We're big now, man. We're on billboards on Chicago.
Psych.
You should be getting the billboard outside of every building.
We always like looking across out this window right here. We like see a huge MIDCONVO sign.
We always say shout out to our sponsors, ourselves. Real quick, I want to touch on Popular Pays supported freelance photographers and videographers, creatives. Lightricks does the same.
Yeah.
What has been your, you're not a photographer, videographer, but you have a passion for helping develop tools and innovative tools to support creatives.
Yeah.
Touch on that for a second.
Yeah. I would say that was the entry point. I worked on a small startup in college, but it was not legit. It was just, hey, no, to those 4 people I knew, it was legit, but it was more of bootstrapped in. It wasn't like we were going venture mode. We were running something very small. But I went into advertising and worked at Burnett after college because I did think it was a good mixture of I like business and I like art. And it did seem like one of the few areas where you're able to be very creative in business. I watched this old film, this old documentary, Art and Copy, and they talked about famous ad campaigns, and it seemed like a really creative outlet for business. But I've always been passionate about technology since I was a little kid, and I think that was kind of the missing element. So with Popular Pays, it was kind of bringing together, I still love seeing, I get this deep, thrill out of seeing really good, well-made stuff, and being able to get this new generation of creators paid for making content that we always said, is it worth sharing? We want to put stuff out in the world that's worth sharing. And there was a passion around that for sure. But then I think rounding it out was at its core, I'm very passionate about technology, how it scales human effort. I'd say that it just constantly, we're constantly standing on the shoulders of the last wave of innovations in the last generation. And what we can do now, we live at the coolest time ever. What we're doing now is almost like sci-fi.
Insane.
It's very scary, but when else would you rather live?
100%.
My mom was a graphic designer, and she experienced the changes through when you're physically laying out type to when you started using Photoshop tools, and it's there's a lot of change there.
That's wild.
But the further you go back, the less things change, and it's more fun. I know it's stressful to learn new things, but better that than only working with one way your entire life and never learning something new. So if I had to pick, I think living in the time where there's all this drastic change, it's more exciting overall. So I'm so grateful for the timeline we're in.
That's so good.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's amazing. Yeah, I mean, AI, I think speaking to someone like yourself who is so involved with some of the AI technology in the creator space, but then also being a big supporter of it and embracing it, even as a creative.
We got some questions.
Yeah, I mean, there's just a lot there, a lot of people wondering about AI, whether it's going to take their job, but it is cool to kind of hear, even off the mic, we were chatting about the potential benefits that can come from, even for people who are doing the art itself, just speeding up your workflow and getting better ideas and just getting better tools created.
There's so many interesting questions here, and I can see it both from the creator's point of view and brands, but I'll give some examples that talk about there are people who invested their entire lives in a certain design style, and then now you can query it up and rip it off online really easily. And there's so many ways to look at that. In one sense, they'll get one thing that's obviously wrong is people ripping off a style can't with the law today and shouldn't be able to commercialize it and sell it. But someone taking their family portrait and turning it into that design style in a way, I understand it's appropriating this designer style, for example. But on the other hand, it's making such a bigger impact on culture than you would have had otherwise. And still, as long as they're not making money from it, it's hard for me to get completely angry because, for example, what's the style? Oh my gosh, everyone's using the Japanese animator
Studio Ghibli.
Yeah. And I both feel his pain around they spent a year and a half on a 4-second clip of one of his animations.
Yeah.
And without that painstaking work, we would have had the data to mimic it.
Wow.
And so I both see the reason why someone would want to like have an injunction say you cannot use a style that's copyrighted like this. But there's so many lenses to look at it. Like I wouldn't have been exposed to the magical story of that artistry if I hadn't been seeing it everywhere and been looking it up. And long term, I think it'll mean that studio has a deeper cultural impact than it would have otherwise. And so there's a lot of lenses there, but it's tough for creators in the sense that you don't want your IP to be taken and like regurgitated cheaply in like a lesser fidelity format. But it's like
so interesting.
I think one of the most things that I'm curious about is it's just kind of like not just AI. It's happened in a lot of industries. It's brought like proper credit and how AI and people who work on these AIs could properly credit or properly spotlight the styles and designs that their AI models are using, right? Obviously, AIs, they probably have somewhat of a limited control on that because AI is probably just generating it off of what is out there. So whoever designed it might not even know that Studio Ghibli design even existed, or let's just say. But in general, it's like, how do you actually properly credit and properly reward the people that did put in that time?
That's a really good question. It's something we're working on at Lightricks. Like we did something with Shutterstock where, we built our own model, but we, paid for licensed content from creators. So like creators are able to monetize their catalog in that sense. Definitely not perfect, but it's a step in the right direction instead of just like scraping all of YouTube with no crediting.
Yeah.
But it's the interpretability of like if you're asking for a picture of a cat, where does it all come from? Like the kind of going backwards and seeing who gets credit is difficult. It's not impossible. But ideally there's a system where it's like people are getting paid either because of the training data. So whether, you're the New York Times or Reddit or whatever, whether it's a community or just of artists, you want to have some kind of economic model to reward all the people putting in the effort at the base layer. But there's like a definite thing to say that like people are suspicious that these big companies like the OpenAIs and Googles, et cetera,
are stealing photos.
Yeah, and they just tend to profit, and everyone else tends to lose. Yeah, and so like I get it. I definitely get it.
It's almost like AI in this context. It's kind of like how stock content is purchased and sold.
Yeah.
In that, like, eventually, I think creators could use AI to their advantage depending on what that kickback looks like. Yeah. And it's more usage and licensing at that point. But I'm so curious, like, generative AI, which was Adobe's, Photoshop AI tool.
Yeah. Like Firefly?
Yes. Yeah. Yep. Mm-hmm. What happens is a lot of freelancers, photographers will use these features and then ask brands or just ask me and people in the industry, am I able to use this content? Because Adobe, I don't know what their current guidelines say, but a lot of it could be copyrighted if it's AI generated. So I think that's been the biggest challenge as a creator and as an educator in the space is answering people's questions when it's so fast moving.
Yeah. It's funny, like, so my job is basically to help brands like use our creative technology products, and we get those questions a lot. There's a bunch to say there, but at a high level, there's some law that's just established because it's like regular copyright law. Like one thing, you can't do certain things. Like I can't just say like, make this in the style of Barbie and make my own Barbie animated short and sell it. Like you can't use copyrighted inputs to make something that's like a substitute work and then pay and then
be profit off it.
So like there's basic copyright law that like Obvious knows, and I don't think that would trip up the savvy creator or brand. That's not what they're talking about. But people are just worried that they'll innocently use these tools to make like, an image of a cat or a video of a cat walking down a sidewalk or whatever, but then the inputs were copyrighted so that they're at fault now. Practically speaking, for creators, like the people that they would go out after would be like, look, Coca-Cola had their famous, AI ads, for holiday ads, and the attention is more on the big brands than the creators are not attention. I can tell you that.
Sure, yeah.
They're
not gonna come for you, bro. They're not gonna come for you, Paul.
I'd say act to your like highest sense of right, but here's a really interesting example. So at the Austin AI Fest, there's a guy, Nick, he's worked on this project. It's like these little monster like characters that he designed with AI, but they're AI derived, but they just were painstakingly documenting it's this company Foreign Native. They painstakingly documented the process of how they arrived at these, because normal outputs are not copyrightable. But if you show that there was like human effort and curation and attention, that is then copyrightable.
Like the prompts, they took
just
essentially.
Like they showed we went through like 10,000 iterations of all these characters, and here's where we whittled it down to, and here's how we keep them consistent in this format, and here's what we threw away. He said it's really annoying to keep track of all of it, but that's let them copyright it so they can make like a Pixar level type. Like I think they're making a actual feature film. And so that's an example of, there's two ways of looking at it. One way is, how do you as a creator make IP? And there's a path for that. And then the other one, it's called critters. Sorry, I said monsters. It's called critters. There's a path for that. And then the other way, like, so you don't need to be worried. You can use tools out there. You have to do a little bit of diligence sometimes, like, but in general, I think creators aren't the focus. They're focusing on the biggest brands, and the brands are even more cautious. But that's one of the things, that's one of the reasons we built our own models. We wanted our own ability to dictate how it's trained. And so we have one of the very few open sourced video models.
Wow.
So anyone can use it for research purposes for free. They can check out like the kind of the weights behind it but we've also been trying to do licensed partnerships, like with the Shutterstock deal.
Jeez. Instead
of just, scraping all of YouTube. You probably would get slightly better results if you just scrape all the internet. You would get better results. But we've oriented ours about like really fast prototyping, so creators can just like in a few minutes get a draft storyboard or a sample project to communicate an idea. But over time, I imagine you'll be able to toggle over to these high-powered, higher-cost models. But yeah, I know some people are still concerned, like, can I use, Google VO2 for commercial projects? Like, there's not very good settled law in some of these areas.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's the blurry aspect. I think that's causing some freelancers in our audience to be like, man, is it something that I can use? Is it something that I should like continue to learn and take advantage of so then it doesn't replace me? And I think off the mic, you said some pretty awesome advantages to AI, even outside of content creation. Do you want to hit on those real quick?
Yeah, that's so like, I want to completely acknowledge there's a lot of things to be rightfully worried about, not just as creators. I hate to say it, but in every industry, like there's a lot of change coming for everyone. And it is just as stressful. Like, creators have to relearn tools. The people building it, there's constantly stuff coming out that has to be like, there's a constant arms race over here. And outside of content, we talked about how there's sometimes some issues like coding. The whole software engineering space is being transformed. But you can also look at the bright side. Nowadays, you and I who aren't technical, we can vibe code a fun project in a weekend where you couldn't before. It really democratizes that, and it makes you like good enough at certain things to where you can ship things and get ideas out that you never could before. So, and a good example is, although yes, like if you are a graphic designer only working on static ads, ChatGPT's 4.0 images this week have made that very tough for you to charge a lot of money in now, because it's so easy to make. You can take a picture of this, say, make it look like this ad, but with this product, and it does that with one, 0 shots it. So the bar is constantly rising. But the cool thing is nowadays, I swear someone today could make like the next Rick and Morty, and you just have to have funny dialogue. Well, you can even lean on, AI is not as funny as the best writers, obviously, but you can lean on AI from every part of the process. And if you're just like an especially good storyteller, you have all these tools. You could ship the next Family Guy or Rick and Morty, put it on YouTube, and then maybe turn that into like a series. So I think it's like cool. Democratizing everything, and it's getting everyone more of a chance of being creative. So now really the bar is just like your taste. Designers, people, like, here's the thing. All the people like Picasso or whatever, where we know them from their crazy, like the Salvador Dali and his surrealist paintings. Every single one of those people, they cut their teeth on the classics, and they've made, when they were like age 14, amazing photorealistic stuff, but then they developed their own style.
Yeah.
Designers and videographers that have been in the industry, you develop like 100 times more taste and experience, that when you go to make something, like, what will work. Like, the interesting shot angles and story, like composition of your shots and all that stuff. So like, the person right out of college with no experience in anything is not going to have the same chops, even if you're using the same tools as a professional.
Wow.
You know? The experience still goes a long way.
That's super interesting.
Yeah, I think you just brought out some really good points. I mean, I think what was clicking for me was that if you've typically been someone with great ideas, like a visionary, and you've just never had, like, I mean, what they say, like, to learn a skill, it takes like 10,000 hours. Or maybe like there's people who, you know, when you choose a path when you're young, you got to go to school for like 10 years to learn, like, be an expert at that. And sometimes you get at the end of that 10-year road and like, this was not worth it, right? So it's like when you're a visionary of ideas, I feel like eventually we get to a point where AI will help you flush those out so you can figure out exactly what it is you want to do to sink your teeth down into, because there still will be a human element to anything, I think, even if AI is...
It's a great point, honestly.
...is working. It'll just get your destination faster.
It's a good point. Like, it's funny, idea guys were derided, like rightfully so, in the last decade because like you're not bringing anything to the table.
Yeah.
But the irony is, like, if you are a really good idea person, taste is the one differentiator now. Like, you know, everyone can be like the Rick Rubin of like, I know what I like. And if you're really good at that, you can put out anything, like good, like in the next coming years, we'll be able to put out good music, good film, starting with like animated stuff, but soon like photorealistic film. And it just makes you as a creative, you'll be able to ship more work. One last thing I'll say on that is, like, way back in the day, like, you know, Roman Empire ages, everyone's like, oh, Julius Caesar's so productive. He has like multiple scribes writing things when he's traveling between these battlefields. It's like, that was productivity back then. Now today, like, you have like super, like, you've got like powers of creation at your fingertips.
Wow.
And so like, you know, you could ship more work than anyone in history if you choose. Unfortunately, all the stuff we watch is going to get that much more addicting. So we'll probably just spend the extra time like watching TikTok.
So true.
Yeah.
I think AI reminds me of 15 years ago, electric cars.
Yeah.
Dude, I remember seeing like, you know, a little post on like, imagine if you're driving a car that you can, you know, plug into a battery charger at your house and you don't need gas. People are like, you're crazy. And then now the self-driving cars like Waymo out in San Francisco, that's crazy. But it's like, innovation is scary at first. And I think AI in this conversation, in this context, 5-10 years from now, we're going to be like, oh my gosh, like this is just a part of everything that we do.
Exactly.
The one thing, like, I'm an optimistic person. There's a few things I'm pessimistic about. Like, I am optimistic with everything from like, we'll have AI-powered discoveries around like cancer vaccines, and things that seemed intractable will be solved. Most crises, whether it's like climate crisis or fertility crisis, like these will be addressable problems where they seemed intractable now. I am worried about misinformation. We talked about this a little bit too. Like, AI is so good at content creation, and it will be like super persuasive to us even before it's smarter than us from like a holistic basis. And so whether you have a bad actor or just kind of like a runaway system like of bots, you can probably, if you're savvy enough today, you can sway public opinion with these systems.
Yeah.
And agents. Yeah.
I mean, you guys, we see all like the deep fake stuff that goes around. I think, but to kind of take the more like optimistic approach to that, because I've seen like iRobot and stuff back in the day. Like robots, right? Like when you see those ones like robots walking around, I'm like, bro.
Oh, and they have those. Have you seen those?
I'm like, can we slow down?
Yeah.
Like I've seen the ones of now them like holding gimbals and doing video work, like robots, and I'm
We're
like,
cooked.
I'm like, yo,
Ed, you're cooked.
let's slow down. Let's slow down. But in general, I do want to say that with AI, one thing that will always be true though is like the human interaction of people being together and things like that will always be there. Like I feel like we need that. And I think if anything, all the technological advances that we've been seeing will only make this desire to be in real life or with people like stronger.
Yeah.
And so I think people who are more forward thinking in that sense, and like thinking about how can we get community together, how can we get people off their phones more, like that is what's going to be the future, in my opinion, of
That's good.
bringing people together. And so that's why I think it's going to be great from a productivity standpoint. We're still going to need this human element that I feel like even now without AI, we've struggled with. So
that's good.
Yeah.
People fighting against the current to like bring more of those things back.
I mean, there's something about like, there'll be more and more addictive and immersive like virtual environments, but there's absolutely just a magic to humanity being in person. And hopefully we're taking, like the utopia is that robots are taking they started by doing all of our art, which was not good, but hopefully they're taking over all these other things, and giving us more time for like the real human things in life, like spending more time with family. Like that's a great example of something where
awesome.
You can never get enough of that, and technology can help you remove a lot of BS from your life and open up time to like be there with your parents or your kid, or like caretaking is deeply human. And yeah, even though we have like, DoorDash on command, like dinner with a family is something where, I'm hoping that as technology takes a lot of stuff off our plates, we have more time for our passions and our humanity. And I am hopeful about that. But the thing is you can only really forecast out 5 years, and then all bets are off. Like 10 years is gonna be like
we're gonna bring you back in 5 years. We're gonna be cooked.
If you want it, we can make.
We
some,
might not even be here. We might be in a virtual world, honestly, in 5 years.
We should after we cut, we can do an additional segment of our bets over the next.
Oh, that's actually kind of fire, like Gary Vee style.
Yeah. I've never seen his.
Oh, he used to do that.
He just makes calls out.
Yeah, he does all the calls.
He has clips of like stuff he called like 5 years ago, or people who went like famous.
But to wrap this one up, man, I love your story with Popular Pays. Looking back at just me being a user, a lot of those relationships that I built just being a user with these brands, I'm still connected with Justin from Bucket Feet.
Yeah.
I'm still connected with a lot of different people in Chicago that are business owners, because I was the one creating content for the free coffee, for the free shoes, the sunglasses. So all those things I think matter. And I don't think those things would have been possible without you being like, yo, I'm doing this. And I call that out because I think there's a lot of people that follow you that don't say anything, but they've seen what you've been able to grow and what you've been able to cultivate. So I love your Popular Pay story. I love what you're doing at Lightricks. You are like the guy that I'm going to go to for any AI questions. About to hit you up in like a week.
I'll just put everything in ChatGPT and send it back to you.
Yeah, put together a little recap for Paul. But no, dude, I just want to say, where can people find you? And then also, what is something that you kind of want to end with to share with the audience?
Well, I'd end with what you said. Like that means a real lot to me. Thank you. And I guess I can say about that, we put a lot of heart and soul into the whole journey, and there was lots of ups and downs, but we met people, all of us who were a part of it met people that changed our life through it. I met everyone from Alan and Nathan to my wife and other people along this crazy journey, and people I'm still in touch with to this day. So I can say that it was transformative, and thank you for saying that. In terms of like where they can find me, it's just at Corbett Drummey on all socials and stuff. Corbett is a pretty weird name, so you can probably just Google that and I'd pop up.
That's actually the bonus. That's kind of
the bonus.
Yeah, of being the only Corbett Drummey.
But yeah, I'm just it's fun coming on this to like reflect. It's like therapeutic to talk about stuff, because there's also so much magic that happened in the experience that we don't get to talk about and reflect on. So like, thank you guys for having these types of things, because it helps us like tie a lot of those experiences off into a bow and put on the shelf, because like some of the stuff we talked today about, we've never talked about. And it's nice just to share it and have people be receptive to it, and like mutually learn from each other's experiences.
So good. Well, thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks so much for coming on the podcast, and we'll put Corbett's link in our description or show notes, but thank you so much for listening to this one.
That was a blast.
Thanks.
See you guys.
Peace.